Going into Ohio State's game with the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, everyone expected the Buckeyes to blow Rutgers out. That is what happened. Now, I don't know if anyone expected Mayan Williams to have a career day over the weekend. We'll discuss what he did on Saturday afternoon right here on Locked On Buckeyes.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is a Monday, October 3rd in the year 2022, and I'd like to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked On College Network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. I would also like to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. On today's episode, we will discuss what this defense did over the weekend and a couple players that stood up and stood out, as well as Ryan Day versus Greg Schiano in the fourth quarter of the game over the weekend. But before we get to any of that, Mayan Williams went off. I don't know another way to describe the performance that Mayan Williams had on Saturday afternoon than by saying what I just said. I'll say it again. Mayan Williams went off. You've heard me on this podcast before discuss Ohio State's use of the availability report or injury report and how there's really a lack of information and how they use the ability they have to not give out a ton of information to their advantage. So going into a game, you might think, oh, so-and-so's going to play or so-and-so's going to play. The next thing you know, they're not playing and you're wondering what's going on. Well, they don't have to give out all the information. So they're trying to keep everything tight-knit, close-knit in-house. But it leads for a lot of questions going into game time, especially when you say a player is game time decision when the game's about to start. I'd say I'd have to say this. Travion Henderson was expected to play. I expected him to play over the weekend. But at game time, I think it was like at 3:38, like about 7 minutes before kickoff of the game, Travion Henderson was listed as a game time decision. So in my head, I'm wondering, what's going on? Why did they wait so late? Now I understand, like, waiting until late. But it's still really puzzling why he did not play. So in the meantime, that leaves Mayan Williams. Now, you know, last week I discussed why Mayan Williams is or should be RB1 at Ohio State. Got a lot of pushback from that. Even some people that have been on the podcast had some pushback. Jeff Hunt over the weekend on Friday's show said, no, I don't really. They complement each other. And I think it's great for Henderson can be RB1. Great. I still think Mayan Williams should be the starter. And after last weekend's performance, there's a different argument that we didn't have previously for Mayan Williams to be RB1. Mayan Williams in this game, career day is exactly what it was. 21 carries, 189 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns, a long run, which was a touchdown run of 70 yards, and he averaged 9 yards per carry. Let that sink into you really quickly. When you know you're not going to have your starting running back and the running back duo of Henderson and Williams will not be intact for this game, you might be thinking, oh, okay, cool. So it's going to be Williams and Dallin Hayden. I don't believe Dallin Hayden got on the field until the second part or even latter part of the third quarter. The Buckeyes are riding Mayan Williams the entire game. That's not their normal philosophy. And I was thinking back in my head, when was the last time the Buckeyes used one running back this much as a featured back? And it might have to go back to 2019 in the semifinal game against Clemson when J.K. Dobbins got all the carries and there was no thought of having Master Teague, or I think Master Teague was a backup that year, Master Teague go on the field. because J.K. Dobbins in that moment, in that game, it was his time to shine, and he was the kind of guy you wanted to lead the way at that point. So I was like, okay, 2020, you had a mixture of Trey Sermon and Master Teague, but I don't believe any of them were the featured back in that way for that much. Yes, Trey Sermon had a phenomenal run at the latter part of 2020, but I still believe Master T got some clock and got some tick as well. Last year, it wasn't just one featured back. Mayan Williams and Travion Henderson split the carries. So I'm really trying to wonder and think to myself, was this the plan as soon as Henderson, they got the ruling that Henderson was not going to play, that it was just going to be Mayan Williams and rolling with him? Hey, it worked out. Hey, you went up against a rushing defense that only was giving up 56.5 rushing yards per game going into this game. I believe Mayan Williams eclipsed that mark himself prior to the end of the first quarter. So we all talked about, and we're talking about some more things that we learned from Greg Schiano of onthebanks.com on last Thursday preview episode. Talk about more of those in the very next segment. But Mayan Williams went off, man. And I'm going to say it again. He was running over people. His vision was good. The O-line was opening up massive holes once again. Paris Johnson Jr. and Cade Stover need all the Buckeye leads for their blocking in this game and throughout the season in the run game, because those guys have been elite. Those guys have been phenomenal. But the entire O-line is doing their job in the run game. So it's making Mayan Williams' job a whole lot easier. Now, granted, he is having to break tackles. He is having to slip tackles. But he can do that. He's durable. He can slip tackles. Him working on his physique and his body and his health has really aided him and helped him to this point in the year and to this point in his Buckeye career. Mayan Williams went off. Rutgers knew if they wanted to win this game, they were going to have to stop the run game. Slowing down Stroud was something that they did, and Stroud struggled in this game. And I am still scratching my head and puzzled at what we saw from Stroud at times. We'll discuss that more on tomorrow's show. But today is Mayan Williams, because Mayan Williams went off. He was RB1 in a moment where I didn't think he was going to be RB1 for Ohio State. And in that moment, he capitalized against a good run defense of Rutgers and went off against them. He went off against them. We'll discuss what the defense did as they had a phenomenal performance as well against Rutgers. We'll discuss that next right here on Locked on Buckeyes. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Head to LinkedIn Jobs and create your free job post. And I just said it once, I'll say it again. Creating a job post is free. We all love free things in our life. Then add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I would like to thank everyone once again for making Locked on Buckeyes their first listen of every day. Head over to the Locked on Buckeyes YouTube page. Hit that subscribe button. We are inching closer, so much closer to hitting the 2,000 subscription mark on the YouTube. That is correct. We are very close to hitting that mark. Go over there to the YouTube page at Locked on Buckeyes. Hit that subscribe button and help us get closer to our goal of having 2,000 subscriptions on the YouTube page. The Buckeye defense keeps getting better. It's elite. Even with some injuries, we'll discuss some injuries that they had on defense as well. We're finding out this defense, aided by a few players, and it helped by a few players over the weekend, were players that showed up and showed out. Mayan Williams had a career day. A couple other players on the defense really did their thing. Now, going into this game, We all knew there were possibly going to be some injuries, injuries at certain places. Cam Brown did not play, starting corner. Jordan Hancock, backup corner, probably would have been a replacement for Cam Brown. Jordan Hancock is still hurt. Denzel Burke was a liability. And this team, even though they knew that Rutgers was going to have to pass the ball a little bit, this team still held Rutgers to under 200 yards of total offense, held the Scarlet Knights to only 80 passing yards in this game. Rutgers had as a team 187 total yards, 80 passing yards, 107 rushing yards. So Rutgers really hurt themselves and shot themselves in the foot by having 10 penalties and losing 61 yards on said penalties. Rutgers was 0 for 2 on fourth down, 1 for 11 on third down. Talk about a dominant performance by a defense. It's right there. The Buckeyes held Rutgers to 3.3 yards per play. 3 yards per carry was the average that Rutgers had. And I'm sitting here looking at this and I'm wondering, like, this defense, when they know what's going to come, they're really good. Now, Rutgers, their game plan was weird. We heard about it from Greg Patuto of OnTheBakes.com, covers Rutgers for SB Nation. He discussed how Rutgers has a tendency to use multiple quarterbacks. I don't know what their thought process is with that. I don't know why. I don't know why they're trying to use a 2, sometimes 3 quarterback system, because it does not work. I mean, you could say Jay, it worked for Michigan last year. Did it? Yeah, they did something that they had not done under Harbaugh. But I would not advise any coach or anything like that to use a 2 quarterback system. Because 9 times out of 10, 99% of the time, buddy, it doesn't work and you will not be successful. But Rutgers, they had Noah Vedral, who had not played a game to this point in the season due to injury. Noah Vedral started the game. He went out, and then the very next play, and I'm trying to look at my notes here because I wrote this down. I had to cross it out. Noah Vedral started. Evan Simon came in, another quarterback. And I'm like, what are you guys do? You guys are starting this thing off, kind of tipping your hand and kind of letting us know what you're going to do. Because Noah Vedral, even though Noah Vedral came in, he was not a passer. Every time he came in, it was a run play. Noah Vedral did not pass the ball at all. Did not throw one pass in that game. Now, you can say, Jay, it could have been a decoy. But when you're down a lot early, you might think that decoy might turn to be a different weapon because you need him to do something that he's supposed to do, or just throw the ball. That's not what they had him to do. Evan Simon, the only quarterback that threw the ball over the weekend, 10 for 19, 74 passing yards, 53% completion percentage. And once again, we're discussing what a team is doing with their quarterback when Ohio State has 2 other top 4 corners down and one of the starting corners is not playing like a starting corner. I am sitting here wondering, how much better could this Buckeye defense be? Now, to date, we also know the Buckeye defense has not played anybody that's good. Notre Dame is not good. Also, Tyler Buckner went down. Arkansas State, not good. Toledo, they might have the best quarterback the Buckeyes have played all year, but Toledo does not have the talent to hang with Ohio State. Wisconsin, bad, really bad. Only had two rushing yards. Wisconsin Badgers only had 2 rushing yards against the Illinois Fighting Illini, and they just fired their coach, Paul Chryst, about 24 hours after that loss to Illinois. Then the Buckeyes just played Rutgers, another bad football team. This coming weekend, the Buckeyes played Michigan State, a bad football team. The 15th, there's a bye. The 22nd, the Buckeyes, after a bye week, play Iowa, a really bad football team. The first good football team the Buckeyes will play that has a decent quarterback, an okay quarterback, is Sean Clifford. Penn State's playing very well. The 29th of October, Halloween weekend. I'm watching for that game, but the Buckeyes defense keeps gaining confidence game after game after game when they know that quarterbacks are going to have to throw the ball. Man, that game against Penn State, as I had it written down in the preseason as a loss, that might be a win. I am not going to change my preseason prediction just yet, but the Buckeyes defense keeps playing like this and stifling teams and holding and doing things to teams that you would think, oh, wow, if they hold a team to 80 passing yards, they're going to win that game every day of the week and twice on Sunday. That's what we're looking at with this Buckeye defense. Also, there were a couple players, they really played phenomenal. I can highlight a few guys on defense, but one of them, and I have been very, 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 very critical, extremely critical of this young man, is Zach Harrison. and I have no problem saying this, coming into this season, my expectations for Zach Harrison had gone down a little bit. My expectations for Zach Harrison were not where they were when I began covering Ohio State in 2020. Because I had thought Zach Harrison would take another level, would be more lethal, would be a lot better. Not saying he didn't get better, would be a lot better than he had gotten. But Zach Harrison in this game showed us in different plays, lining up at the end and also lining up at D tackle. Zach Harrison was a player that was creating problems for Rutgers. Zach Harrison in this game, let me check it quickly. 2 tackles. He had 1 pass breakup. He had 1 forced fumble. He lined up at D tackle sometimes, and I saw a rushman package. And I said, oh, wait. I would prefer, me personally, I was like, hey, I'd prefer for JT Tuimoloau to be there at D tackle over Zach Harrison. But on that play, Zach Harrison, I believe he broke up the pass on that one. I want to know, excuse me, I want to say that was a forced fumble that he caused at D tackle. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, Zach, you're getting better. You're improving. You may not be what some people thought you were going to be at Ohio State, but you are getting better. And that's the name of the game. Continue to get better and acknowledge when maybe you are wrong about something. And when a player is showing you things that you did not think you were going to see from him, acknowledge, hey, I was wrong. I did not expect this from Zach Harrison. I know he's a solid college football player, but he keeps getting better and improving in areas and in ways that some think he might not do it. Zach Harrison got better, and he's playing really good football for Ohio State right now. When you have Jack Sawyer, when you have Jalen Tuimoloau, which is his real name, Jalen Tuimoloau, who are out there, you need a third D end. Zach Harrison ended up starting over the weekend. They have a 3-headed monster at defensive end at Ohio State that are really, really good. And I do believe all 3 guys can play outside, 3-point stance, 2-point stance, and I believe if you want to work it a little bit, you could possibly get all 3 of those guys to play D tackle as well. I think you could get Sawyer more of the outside role, but he could be down there inside as well. But also still Chambers. It amazes me that a guy that's coming in, it's kind of in a similar boat as Cade Stover, where Cade Stover changed the position. Still Chambers changed the position. Second year as a starter at linebacker for Ohio State. Still Chambers continues to do phenomenal things. His stat line does not show off what he did over the weekend. 11 tackles, 8 of those tackles were solo, 2 tackles for loss, 1 interception, and a quarterback hit. If you go back and watch this game, you'll see more of Still Chambers on your screen consistently, and you'll be wondering, man, we got Zach Harrison, who's good. Jack Sawyer's good. Jalen Tuimoloau is good. Teron Vincent's played well this year. Mike Hall's played well this year. Tyler Williams is getting better. You got 2 linebackers who could be one. Still Chambers could be an all-conference linebacker. Eichenberg could be an all-American linebacker. You got guys on the defense that are going to be playing in the NFL. You have guys in Hickman and Proctor who are getting better. You got youngsters and Jair Brown and Ryan Turner who continue to grind and get better. This team's going to be good, man. I can highlight more players, but Harrison and Still Chambers are the ones of the day, and I can't wait to see what the defense does throughout the rest of the year. Hey, Michigan State, y'all not ready. Y'all about to get ran over by this Buckeye train coming to East Lansing on Saturday afternoon. Buckeye train coming to East Lansing. I sure thought that was going to be a train, a head-on collision when Ryan Day and Greg Schiano got into it at the end of the game. What happened? What did they do? We'll discuss that next right here on Locked on Buckeyes. BetOnline.net is your number 1 source for football betting info this season. Find all of the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sport wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Locked on Buckeyes, along with all our other Cleveland podcasts, are now available on Roku and Amazon Fire TV as part of Locked On Sports Cleveland. More great local sports coverage 24/7, and it's free. Download the Locked On Sports Cleveland app today on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. Greg Schiano versus Ryan Day. It's what we need in the fourth quarter because at some points in this game, that game was boring. Not going to try to sugarcoat it. The game got boring at times. But in the fourth quarter, Rutgers stopped Ohio State on third down. The Buckeyes came on the field to punt. Jesse Mirko was back deep, 15 yards back behind the line of scrimmage to punt the ball. Mitch Rossi was one of the up backs there. And in this moment, I don't know if it was Jesse Mirko or Mitch Rossi or somebody else on the punt team, noticed that Rutgers was overloading one side for a punt block. So I saw some shifting of the free up men. They're the punt protectors for Ohio State on their punt team. I saw Rossi turn back, go left. The snap comes back to Mirko. Jesse Mirko runs right to in an Australian-style punt the football. That's what he does. He's from Australia. Australian punter, Australian-style punt was what he looked like and saw. But there was a wide open side of the field on the right side of the punt team. And Jesse Mirko took it upon himself. Rutgers come out and punt block. I think it was like 4th and 2 at this time. Jesse Mirko ran the ball on the right side, wide open. He got the first down. He ended up getting a 22-yard gain. Late hit out of bounds. He ran 2 steps out of bounds. The Rutgers player was probably upset or disgruntled that one. It could have been the punt returner. He was not able to get the ball, but also, why are you doing that when our team is down 39? So the guy from Rutgers runs over Jesse Mirko. A few Ohio State players and come up and defend their punter as they should. I have no problem with that. I am glad they protect their punter, protected one of their players. You also have Rutgers players get into it with Ohio State players. Next thing you know, Greg Schiano comes all the way. This is happening on the Ohio State sideline, might I add. Greg Schiano comes all the way over from the other side of the field to, as he said, get his players back. But the body language that I saw was that most of the time, Greg Schiano, his back was to his own players and was facing Ryan Day. And Ryan Day, in this moment, he was probably upset. Hey, man, what are you doing? Like, pump block. What are you doing? This game's over. And then Greg Schiano's like, hey, man, what are you doing? We're down. We're down 39. What are you doing with this fake punt stuff? And also, one thing you need to realize is that in this moment, Greg Schiano and Ryan Day, they're friends. Schiano used to coach under Ryan Day at Ohio State. So this is not just like two guys that are friends off the field that have never coached together. They had a working relationship together. They know how each other are as workers. They know how each other are as competitors. They know that they are well-respected men in the industry. And so Ryan Day points at Greg Schiano. Greg Schiano points back at Ryan Day. I believe Ryan Day had a little, some four-letter words that came out of his mouth. One of them started with an F. Maybe have it a couple times. And Ryan Day and Greg Schiano were going at it. And you know what? In that moment, I had nothing wrong with what the players did. Nothing at all. Greg Schiano versus Ryan Day, sometimes you need some of those things to happen as a coach to fire up your players. And Ryan Day, you want to protect your guys as well. So I had nothing wrong. Now the whole punt thing, I'm not going to get involved with that. In the moment, I didn't think anything was wrong with it. Even though I have more context now, I now think there was something wrong with what Mirko did. You down 39 or up 39. You don't want that to happen. But hey, either Ohio State's getting a first down by going for it on fourth down, by running the ball with Mayan Williams, or they just convert on third down, which they did not do. I get it, man. Sometimes y'all don't like the punt stuff. I get it. It's probably not the wisest thing. I can understand why Mirko did that in that moment, but I have no problem with the player standing up for their player, standing up for their punter. I am here for it. On a football field, those are your brothers. As the Buckeye players say all the time, this is a brotherhood. And you know what? They need to stand up for each other. I have no problem with Rutgers wanting to come over and get into it a little bit. Hey, man, this is football, man. It's an intense sport. I get it. And also, I get Greg Schiano and Ryan Day standing up for their players and getting into it in that way. In a time when we think coaches might not do certain things and coaches might not stand up for their players, in a time when you might say, oh, things aren't as serious as they used to be, Ryan Day is bringing a level of toughness, and he's going to protect his guys no matter what. Hey, Greg Schiano versus Ryan Day, that's what this second half needed in this game, because this game, like I said, was boring at times. Now, Down the road, Ryan Day, after giving a little context, Ryan Day in the postgame presser did say he was going to talk to Jesse Mirko about what happened tomorrow, which was on Sunday. So there might be more clarification, and Ryan Day might address that Tuesday when he speaks and talks to the media. He might even address it on 97.1 The Fan on the coach's radio show. I don't know what he's going to do, but all I can say is this. Your boy has no problem with the players, Ohio State players, getting into it with Rutgers. I liked it. I was sitting there like, yeah, you got to do that stuff, man. Protect your boys. I like it. Greg Schiano on Ryan Day. I'm sitting. I got up on the edge of my seat like, hey, let's go, man. I didn't think they were going to swing, but if they did, talk about the firepower, the storylines that come from that, they would be endless. Both coaches ended up getting an unsportsmanlike penalty on that play. There was the late hit that I mentioned earlier on the player that hit Mirko. That was called. Then they were offsetting unsportsmanlike conduct penalties on the coaches. They happen, man. They happen. But that was what the story of the second half was. Outside of Mayan Williams' career day, it was also the coaches getting into it on the sidelines. Guys, I am so happy to be back here on this Monday, preparing and discussing another win. I'm also happy to discuss another Buckeye game this coming weekend against the Michigan State Spartans, the first road game for Ohio State in 2022. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can also send all of your emails to jstevens317 at gmail.com. Thanks for listening to Locked On Buckeyes. Make sure to check out Locked On Big Ten. Its host, Nate Dickinson, will take you on the conference with a local expert in 30 minutes or less every single day. Locked On Big Ten and Locked On Buckeyes. They are both free and available. They are both a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We're out of here for this Monday. Come back tomorrow. We'll discuss more about what happened on the field when the Buckeyes blew out the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.